Imagine trading your privacy and sanity for 15 minutes of fame and a plastic trophy. Reality TV isn't just about messy breakups. It's a legal minefield where the contracts are weirder than the contestants. Today, we're dissecting the fine print that turns human beings into corporate property. We've gathered the 50 most absurd rules from the world's biggest shows. Prepare to see exactly how much leverage a producer has over your actual soul. It's time to read the fine print. 1. When you sign that heavy stack of papers for a show like The Bachelor, you're essentially handing over the keys to your entire existence. Most contracts include a clause that gives producers the right to depict you in any way they choose, even if it's fictionalized or unfavorable. This means they can edit your silent nod into a villainous smirk, and you can't sue them for defamation. You've legally agreed to let them turn you into a monster for the sake of a Nielsen rating. Is your reputation worth a rose? 2. Contestants on Survivor or Big Brother often have to sign waivers acknowledging that the experience might cause severe mental and emotional distress. This isn't just a legal formality. It's a green light for producers to mess with your head. They can deprive you of sleep, feed you nothing but rice, and put you in a room with your ex-girlfriend's cousin just to see if you'll snap. By signing, you're admitting that if you have a total nervous breakdown on national television, it's technically your own fault. The show isn't responsible for the therapy bills you'll be paying for the next decade. 3. If you're on a show involving a group house, your privacy is officially dead. Contracts often specify that there is no expectation of privacy, even in the bathrooms or dressing areas. Microphones are hidden everywhere, and cameras are often equipped with thermal imaging or night vision. Every whisper under the covers or private sob in the shower is recorded and archived. Do you think $100,000 is a fair price for the world, seeing every single one of your most vulnerable, private moments? 4. On shows like Married at First Sight, there's often a rule that you cannot refuse producer-led activities. If a producer tells you to go have a deeply uncomfortable conversation with your new spouse about their childhood trauma while sitting in a hot tub, you have to do it. You've signed away your right to have a natural moment. Everything is curated, and your refusal is a breach of contract that could lead to massive fines. It's scripted reality in the most literal, legal sense. 5. This one sounds like a dark joke, but it's real. Some contracts include clauses that state the network is not liable for injury or death occurring during filming, and that the producers have the right to use the footage of said injury or death in the final broadcast. If you trip over a camera cable and meet your maker while trying to find a hidden immunity idol, the show can, and likely will, edit that into the season finale for maximum drama. Your tragic end becomes their must-see TV moment. It's the ultimate exploitation. Even your final breath is copyrighted material owned by a multinational conglomerate. 6. Contestants on intense physical competition shows are often subjected to surprise pregnancy tests. If you're carrying a human, you're a liability, not a hero. The producers find out you're expecting before your own mother does, and they'll kick you off the set faster than a bad audition. 7. You might think you're choosing your own outfit, but you're not. Most contracts allow producers to confiscate any clothing that has logos, busy patterns that vibrate on camera, or simply doesn't fit the character they've assigned you. If you're the preppy one, they'll take your hoodies and force you into a sweater vest you'd never wear in the real world. You are essentially a dress-up doll for a 24-year-old assistant producer who thinks they're the next Spielberg. Your personal style is the first thing to go. 8. Signing onto a show usually means giving the network total control over your social media accounts. For months, you might have to hand over your passwords, and you're strictly forbidden from posting anything that hints at the show's outcome. If you accidentally post a selfie from your backyard when the show claims you're still locked in a house, you could be sued for millions. They own your digital footprint until the reunion special airs. 9. Some high-stakes business reality shows require you to open your entire financial history to the producers. They want to know every debt, every late payment, and every bank account balance. There's no such thing as a private ledger when there's a prize check on the line. 10. This is the most terrifying part of the fine print. Many contracts include language that gives the network the rights to your likeness and performance in perpetuity throughout the universe, in any and all media now known or hereafter devised. That's lawyers speak for, they own your face forever. Even if we colonize Mars and start broadcasting via telepathy, they can still show reruns of you crying over a burnt steak. You're not just a contestant for a season. You're a piece of intellectual property that the network can exploit until the sun burns out. 11. Imagine being trapped in a house for 3 months without a single clue about what's happening in the outside world. Many reality show contracts strictly forbid access to phones, the internet, or even a newspaper. Contestants have missed major historical events, elections, and even the passing of distant relatives because the producers want them focused entirely on the game. This sensory deprivation isn't just for drama. It's designed to make the competition feel like the only reality that exists. 12. If you think you can just pack your bags and leave when the pressure gets too high, think again. Many contracts include a liquidated damages clause, which is a fancy way of saying you'll owe the network a fortune if you quit prematurely. We're talking anywhere from $50,000 to $500,000 for walking off the set. These golden handcuffs ensure that even if you're miserable, exhausted, or being treated poorly, you'll stay right where the cameras can see you. It turns a television set into a high-end, colorful prison where the guards are carrying clipboards. 13. On some dating and social experiment shows, contestants are prohibited from knowing what time it is. Producers take away watches and clocks, and even cover up the oven timers. They might keep the lights bright for 20 hours a day to mess with your internal rhythm. When you lose your sense of time, you become more emotional, more volatile, and much easier to manipulate into a tearful breakdown. It's a psychological tactic used to ensure that every organic moment of frustration is amplified for the viewers at home. 14. If you have a brilliant idea or a light bulb moment while the cameras are rolling, it doesn't belong to you anymore. Most contracts state that any intellectual property, inventions, or catchphrases created during filming are the sole property of the network. If you accidentally coin the next "That's Hot" or "Live, Laugh, Love," the studio gets to put it on t-shirts and coffee mugs while you get exactly 0% of the profit. You're not just a person to them. You're an incubator for future revenue streams. 15. The non-disparagement clause is a favorite among TV lawyers. By signing, you agree that you will never, under any circumstances, say anything negative about the show, the producers, or the network for the rest of your life. This applies even if you witnessed something unethical or felt completely exploited. It's a permanent gag order that keeps the magic of television alive by burying the ugly truth under a mountain of legal threats. If you knew a show was rigged, would you risk $1 million lawsuit just to tell the world the truth? 16. On many competition shows, you have to agree to undergo mandatory physical and psychological evaluations, but there's a catch. The doctors and therapists work for the production company, not for you. This means their primary goal isn't necessarily your well-being, but determining if you're stable enough to be entertaining. They might share your deepest fears and traumas from these private sessions with the producers, who then use that information to craft storylines that push your specific buttons. 17. Many contracts include a right of first refusal or an exclusive talent deal that lasts long after the finale airs. For up to 2 years, you might be legally barred from appearing on any other television show or even starting a YouTube channel without the network's permission. They effectively own your professional career and can block you from taking other opportunities just because they don't want you diluting the brand. You're a star, but only in the sky they allow you to shine in. 18. You might think your confessional interviews are just a place to vent, but they are often strictly regulated. Contestants are sometimes required to speak in the present tense, even if the event happened days ago, to make the footage easier to edit. If a producer doesn't like your answer, they can keep you in that small hot room for hours until you say exactly what they want to hear. It's not a conversation. It's a scripted performance where you're the last one to see the script. 19. Many contracts for shows like Jersey Shore forbid contestants from running for political office for several years after the show airs. The networks don't want your gym tan laundry lifestyle haunting their brand in a congressional hearing. Apparently, being a reality star is the one thing that can actually make a politician look less credible. 20. Let's talk about the editing waiver. This specific clause often states that the producers have the right to distort, manipulate, or create a false impression of your character. They can take a sentence from Tuesday and a reaction shot from Thursday and stitch them together to make it look like you're insulting your partner's mother. Legally, you've given them permission to lie about who you are. In the world of reality TV, the truth is whatever the editor decides it should be that afternoon. 21. In many reality show contracts, there is a strict no singing policy. This isn't because the producers hate music, but because licensing a popular song costs a fortune. If you start belting out a Taylor Swift chorus during a dramatic breakdown, that entire scene becomes unusable or incredibly expensive to air. Contestants are often warned that if they hum or sing, they're effectively sabotaging their own screen time. It's a bizarre form of self-censorship where your own voice becomes a legal liability for the network. 22. On sets like Survivor or Big Brother, contestants are strictly forbidden from interacting with the camera crew or production staff. These people are treated like invisible ghosts who move around you but never speak. If a cameraman sees you struggling with a heavy box or tripping over a vine, they are legally required to just keep filming and ignore your existence. It's a psychological vacuum that makes the isolation feel even more intense. Imagine being surrounded by 20 people but being legally prohibited from saying hello to a single one of them for months. 23. Have you ever noticed how every soda can on a reality show is either turned away or covered in ugly black tape? That's because of the brand protection clause. Contestants are often barred from using or wearing any product that hasn't paid for a sponsorship. If you bring your favorite sneakers but they haven't cut a deal with the network, get ready to see some duct tape on your feet. Your personal preferences are secondary to the show's advertising revenue. 24. The physical altercation rule is a classic legal trap. While the show thrives on drama, the contract usually states that if you lay a finger on another contestant, you're out. However, producers will often do everything in their power to provoke a fight, from serving unlimited alcohol to whispering lies in your ear, then act shocked when someone finally snaps. They want the heat of a confrontation without the legal fallout of a lawsuit. Do you think it's fair to lure people into a high-stress, booze-filled environment and then punish them for the very fire the show was built on? 25. For many reality stars, their hair and face aren't their own during filming. Contracts frequently include an appearance maintenance clause, meaning you cannot cut your hair, dye it, or grow a beard without written permission from the executive producer. If they cast you as the guy with the long flowing locks, you're stuck with that look until the cameras stop rolling. One unauthorized haircut could cost you a breach of contract fine that would make your barber's jaw drop. Your body is essentially a costume owned by the studio. 26. On shows like Married at First Sight, there is often a divorce moratorium. You legally agree to stay married for the duration of filming, and sometimes for months afterward, regardless of how disastrous the match is. You can't just file for divorce the next morning because you realized your new spouse eats cereal with orange juice or has a personality like wet cardboard. You are legally tethered to a stranger until the network decides your storyline is finished. It's a legally binding happily ever after, whether you like it or not. 27. Want to pass the time by reading a good book? Forget about it. Many reality houses ban all reading materials, including magazines and novels. The only exception is often a religious text like the Bible. The goal is simple. If you have nothing to distract you, You're forced to talk to the other contestants, which leads to more conflict and more usable footage. Intellectual stimulation is the enemy of high-octane drama. If you were stuck in a house for a month with no books and no internet, how long would it take before you started a fight just for something to do? 28. If you're lucky enough to win a cash prize, don't go shopping for a Lamborghini just yet. Most contracts state that the prize money won't be paid out until months, or even a year, after the finale airs. Furthermore, the network often deducts taxes and administrative fees before the check even hits your hand. You might win $1 million on screen, but after the IRS and the studio lawyers are done with it, you might be left with barely enough to cover your rent and some therapy. 29. The family and friends clause is particularly invasive. To get on some shows, you have to provide a list of your closest friends and family members, who may then be contacted by the network for background checks or invited to appear on camera. If your brother refuses to sign a release, the producers might decide you're not worth the trouble and cut you from the cast. Your social circle becomes part of your audition. Would you be willing to sacrifice your family's privacy just to get a spot on a reality show? 30. There is the publicity obligations rule. Even after you've been kicked off the show, you are often legally required to fly across the country for talk shows, podcasts, and red carpet events at a moment's notice. The network usually doesn't pay you for these appearances. It's considered part of the promotion for the show. You're essentially an unpaid intern for your own fame, traveling on your own dime to make sure the network gets as many viewers as possible. It's a grueling cycle that turns a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity into a full-time unpaid job. 31. Before you even step onto a reality set, you have to sign away your right to medical privacy. Producers demand access to your entire health history, including every therapy session or prescription you've ever had. They aren't doing this to keep you safe. They're looking for emotional hooks. If you told a therapist 10 years ago that you're terrified of heights, don't be surprised when your first challenge involves dangling from a helicopter. Your trauma isn't a secret. It's a bullet point in a producer's meeting about how to make you cry on camera. 32. Many competition shows have a strict no sleeping in public rule. Even if you're exhausted after a 20-hour shoot, you aren't allowed to nap in the common areas where cameras might miss a moment. If you close your eyes on a sofa, a production assistant will likely poke you with a boom mic until you wake up. They need you conscious, irritable, and ready to snap at the person sitting next to you. A sleeping contestant is a boring contestant, and boredom is the only thing that gets you fired in this business. 33. If you're lucky enough to win a brand new car or a luxury vacation on a game show, congratulations, you've just won a massive tax bill. Contracts often state that the retail value of the prize is considered taxable income, and you have to pay that tax before you even take delivery. Many winners end up selling their dream prize just to cover the bill from the IRS. It's a cruel irony. You win a $50,000 truck, but you need $15,000 in cash just to drive it off the lot. If you won a luxury boat but had to pay $10,000 in taxes immediately, would you keep the boat or take the lower cash alternative? 34. On social experiment shows, you're often legally required to perform a battery change ritual. Every few hours, a production member will pull you aside to swap out the batteries in your microphone pack. This is the only time you're allowed to speak to the crew, but even then, you aren't allowed to discuss the game. It's a constant reminder that you are literally plugged into the network. If your mic dies and you keep talking, they'll make you repeat the entire conversation once the power is back. Nothing counts unless the audio is crisp. 35. Most contracts include a morality clause that gives the network the power to fire you and claw back your earnings if you do anything scandalous in your private life. This isn't just during filming. It can last for years afterward. If you get into a public argument or post something controversial on social media, the network can claim you've tarnished the brand and sue you for damages. They want the benefit of your fame without any of the risk of your humanity. 36. The producer override is the industry's dirtiest secret. Even if a show has a voting system, the fine print often says the producers have the final say in who stays and who goes in the interest of the production. If the person the audience hates the most is getting the highest ratings, the producers will find a legal loophole to keep them in the game, regardless of the rules. It's not a democracy. It's a televised drama where the votes are mostly suggestions. Do you feel cheated knowing that your vote might be completely ignored by a producer in a trailer? 37. Imagine being stuck in a high-end hotel for 2 weeks before filming even starts. This is called sequestering. You're locked in a room, your windows are often blacked out, and you aren't allowed to speak to the other contestants. This is designed to build up extreme social anxiety so that when you finally enter the house or the island, you explode with pent-up energy. It's a pressure cooker for your personality, and by the time the cameras start rolling, you're so desperate for human contact that you'll say anything to anyone. 38. If you're a parent, the child custody waiver is the most heartbreaking part of the contract. It essentially states that the network is not responsible if your appearance on the show is used against you in future custody battles or legal proceedings. If your villain edit makes you look like an unstable parent, that's your problem, not theirs. They get the ratings. You get the legal fees and the broken family dynamics. Is any amount of fame worth risking your relationship with your children? 39. Sometimes, if two contestants have the same first name, the producers will legally require one of them to go by a nickname or even a completely different name. They don't want the audience getting confused, so Sarah B might spend the entire season being called Peaches or Pinky against her will. You lose your identity the moment you sign the dotted line. You're just a character in their story, and characters need to be easy to tell apart. 40. There's the reunion trap. Even if you hated every second of filming and your reputation was ruined, you are often contractually obligated to return for the reunion special months later. If you refuse, the network can withhold your final appearance fee or even sue you for breach of contract. They want to drag you back onto that stage, show you clips of your worst moments, and force you to argue about them one last time. It's the final pound of flesh the network demands before they let you fade back into obscurity. 41. In the world of reality TV, your private thoughts are considered lost revenue. Most contracts strictly ban all writing materials, meaning no pens, no notebooks, and definitely no diaries. The logic is simple. If you are processing your emotions on paper, you aren't screaming about them to a castmate in the kitchen. They want every internal struggle to be a loud, public meltdown for the cameras. By depriving you of a mental outlet, they force you into a state of perpetual social reactivity. 42. You aren't just signing away your own life, you're dragging your entire past into the spotlight. The third-party interaction clause gives producers the legal right to contact your exes, former bosses, and even that one high school teacher who held a grudge. They aren't looking for glowing recommendations. They're digging for embarrassing stories or dirt that can be used to humiliate you. You essentially grant the network total immunity to harass your social circle in the name of background research. It turns your personal history into a weapon. Would you still sign that contract knowing your worst ex could become the narrator of your life story? 43. Sunglasses might be a fashion staple, but on many dating shows they are a legal forbidden fruit. Producers often ban contestants from wearing shades, even in the middle of a scorching desert. The reasoning is purely psychological. The audience can't connect with your journey if they can't see your eyes. They need to capture every flicker of annoyance, every rolling eye, and every tear. If you have to squint in the blinding sun for 10 hours a day, that's just the price you pay for relatability. You're not a human trying to protect your vision. You're a set of eyeballs owned by the network. It's an incredibly uncomfortable rule for the sake of visual honesty. 44. The non-compete clause for commercials is a hidden career killer that many fame-hungry contestants overlook. For a year or more after your season airs, you are often legally barred from appearing in any ads or endorsing products that compete with the show's sponsors. If the show is sponsored by a specific soft drink, you can't even post a picture of yourself holding a different brand on your personal Instagram. Your entire social media presence becomes a restricted zone where you can only play nice with the network's corporate partners. You're a star, but you're essentially a walking billboard who isn't even getting paid for the ads you can't do. 45. On some lifestyle shows, there is a no-gym rule that sounds absurd but is deeply tactical. Producers don't want you burning off your stress or aggression on a treadmill or with heavy weights. They want that nervous energy to manifest as a shouting match in the kitchen or a breakdown in the garden. By removing healthy outlets for frustration, they turn the house into a psychological pressure cooker. It's a calculated move to ensure everyone stays on edge, irritable, and ready to snap at the slightest provocation. It proves that your physical and mental health are always secondary to the need for high-octane drama and explosive ratings. 46. Imagine a fan is so moved by your story that they send you a handmade gift or a cash donation to help with your medical bills. Under many reality contracts, the network might actually own a piece of that kindness. Gift ownership clauses state that any items or money received as a direct result of the production are subject to the network's approval and even a potential commission. Even your fans' generosity is treated as a revenue stream for the studio. It's a cold corporate way of saying that every positive interaction you have with the world now belongs to the people who own your contract. Is anything truly yours once the cameras start rolling? 47. The spontaneous repeat rule is the ultimate death of authenticity in so-called reality TV. If a major event happens and the cameras weren't in the perfect position, producers will legally compel you to relive the moment. You might have to walk through a door and discover a surprise guest 5 or 6 times until the lighting is just right and the audio is crisp. You are required to maintain the exact same level of shock or joy for every single take. It's a grueling exercise in faking reality until it looks real enough for television. It turns every genuine human connection into a scripted performance where you're just a puppet. 48. The NDA for life is no joke. It's a permanent muzzle on your own experiences. While most parts of a contract eventually expire, the confidentiality agreement regarding production methods often lasts forever. If you reveal how a specific challenge was rigged or how a producer manipulated a vote to keep a villain in the game, you could be sued decades later. The network isn't just protecting a single season. They're protecting the entire industry's smoke and mirrors from being exposed. You're forced to take the show's secrets to your grave. Would you keep a secret for 50 years if $1 million lawsuit was hanging over your head? 49. The no exit for emergencies policy is perhaps the most heartless rule of all. Some contracts state that if a family member falls ill or passes away, leaving the set constitutes a voluntary withdrawal and a total forfeiture of all earnings. Contestants are forced to choose between saying a final goodbye to a loved one or staying for a shot at a plastic trophy. It's a brutal test of loyalty that proves to the network you are a cast member first and a human being second. The prize money is held hostage against your grief. It's a chilling reminder that in the eyes of a producer, the show must go on, no matter the human cost. We've covered 49 rules, and it's time for the final verdict. The award for the absolute dumbest, most predatory rule goes to point 20, the editing waiver. Legally agreeing to let a company lie about your character and create a false impression for profit is the peak of absurdity. It's the ultimate deal with the devil where you trade your reputation for 15 minutes of fame. Now, for our final number, 50. The Future Technology Clause is the ultimate soul catcher for the modern age. Contracts now state that the network owns your image and voice not just for TV, but for any media yet to be invented. This means 40 years from now, a studio could use AI to create a digital hologram of your younger self to sell laundry detergent or star in a VR game, and your estate wouldn't see a single penny. You aren't just a contestant. You've signed over your digital ghost to a corporation for the rest of eternity. Your face is no longer yours. It's an asset owned by a conglomerate that never sleeps. Reality TV is a high-stakes gamble where your reputation is the currency. We've shown you the legal traps, but now it's your turn. Have you ever watched a show and realized a contestant was clearly being manipulated by these clauses? Let's spark a real debate in the comments below. Hit like and subscribe to join our community of deep thinkers. See you in the next one.